to really punish it, including the Skyline Predator, which is going to be very good. Alright, that's all the cards from Dragon's Maze that are in Josh Snyder's deck. We also have an Arrest as well as an Eyes in the Skies.
Wow,
he does have a Prime Speaker Sagana. That's a pretty solid Mythic Rare to have, and you know, it's, well, I assume they've seen each other. Have they not seen each other's deck lists? I'll try to be more quiet, I apologize. We have a Night Watch, an Urbis Protector, Spell Rupture as a way to counterspell one of Brian's big cards, which is going to be very important. He does have the Mystic Genesis, so if he's able to Mystic Genesis one of Brian's 6 or 7 drops and then populate that, that's going to be a monster.
That's brutal.
Yeah, and then last but not least, we have Drake Wing Crassus. You know, along with 2 Verdant Havens for basically perfect mana. You know, this guy's deck looks really good. The Centaur's Herald going along with a Horncaller's Chant. You know, I couldn't really ask for more. His deck's matching up well against Brian's, it looks like. Josh Snyder, 2-0-2-0 in the quarters and semis. Let's see if Brian can take him down.
Yeah. You know, I actually ran into Josh Snyder early in the tournament, around round 3 or 4, asked him how he was doing, started talking about his deck, and he seemed super confident. He said he was really happy with how he was playing, and you know, here he is in the finals versus the man himself, the man on fire, BBD.
Yeah, I think I actually talked to Josh over on the escalator earlier. You know, he asked me, you know, what if he did anything wrong in the game that we were watching with him earlier, and he was the player who had an Izzet Staticaster and a Boros Reckoner in play, and was failing to, you know, ping it so he could shoot his opponent from 1. And you know, he's like, oh yeah, I just forgot. You know, I've done it in Constructed before, and you know, he felt like you know, that was something that he had just missed, and you know, maybe felt a little bad about it, but he still won the match, and he carried that momentum all the way into the top 8 and all the way into the finals. And now he's facing off against Star City Games owns Braun-Duin for the trophy.
Yeah, the trophy, the championship, the money, but more importantly, the pride of being Star City Open champion.
Yeah, so Braun-Duin doing the same thing he did earlier in this top 8, playing an Azorius Arrest on turn 2 with no target, just to put a little pressure into play on Josh. While Josh doesn't really have a whole lot of action in the early parts of the game, he does have a reasonable late game, and Brian, you know, may have picked up on that. But looks like Brian missed his 3rd land drop and doesn't have another 2-drop. So Josh, if he has a smooth draw here, followed, you know, by a couple of large spells, gonna be able to take this one away from Brian, unless Brian really catches up here with a few lands off the top.
Yep, Brian needs any land. This will let him unlock any potential clue stones in his hand, and nope, he misses again.
Yeah, so it did look like he had a Dimir clue stone in hand, so not drawing that land, pretty brutal. He does have access to all of his colors should he draw any land, and yeah, he's just getting beat down pretty bad now by this Drake Wing Crassus. And Josh Snyder, though, at 16, BBD, you know, not dead by any stretch of the means. We have a whole lot of game left to play, but Josh has a bunch of powerful cards with, you know, basically a perfect mana base, and I find it hard to believe that he's going to stumble at all here in this game.
Yeah, he has a Verdant Haven available to him, so the fact that he didn't cast that means he has something better planned. Probably the Deputy of Acquittals that we talked about before, a 2/2 flash at the end of the turn.
Well, to be fair, though, I mean, the Deputy of Acquittals is not that great in this situation, because you would have to bounce around Drake Wing Crassus. However, he could have access to Spell Rupture here, which I think is something more likely, since he could counter Brian's next play.
Right.
You know, he could have a variety of combat tricks, or you know, maybe flash in a creature or something. He does have a lot of interesting cards on his deck list, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a Prime Speaker Savannah in a few turns.
Me too.
I don't know about you. I've seen that guy in Constructed, or girl. You know, it's a fish person. Mer person. You know, looking forward to seeing that mer person in person.
Via the camera.
Via the camera. In-person cameras.
So we have a clue stone for BBD.
Mer persons. All right. Well, it looks like we do have a Deputy of Acquittals. It is a May ability.
It is a May ability.
That guy's way better than I thought he was. Okay, so Deputy of Acquittals, no drawback whatsoever. You know, I thought that was a must ability, and now he just has a 5 power in play versus BBD's 2. BBD stumbled a little bit, missed 2 lane drops, but now a little back in the game with his Cluestone. Could still get blown out here by a Spell Rupture or even a Mystic Genesis.
Yeah, and I do believe I saw a Mystic Genesis peeking out of Josh Snyder's hand, so we'll see if I was right about that. It'll be a blowout if he has it.
Zaichi Tiger? More
Boom.
like a 4-4 on my side.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. And now any populate spell he has, such as Sign of Vitugazi. Sign of Vitugazi would be a crazy blowout here. So he's going to give him a 4-4 token, you know, and it looks like Josh is just in a great position in this game, and I don't think Brian's going to be able to come back.
Spell Rupture drawn by Josh Snyder.
Yeah,
this
so
game is in the books. Braun-Duin, just the couple land drops he missed really cost him here.
And honestly, though, even if he had hit those land drops, I'm not sure he would have even been in this game. That Mystic Genesis plus that Spell Rupture, you know, and that's discounting the other 3 cards in Josh Snyder's hand, or 4 cards. You know, his hand is stacked. He's stuck on 5 with a bunch of spells, and he has a lot of tricky stuff. You know, he has 3 Deputy of Acquittals for you know, flash creatures. Brian all the way down to 5 life. I don't think he's going to be able to deal with that 4-4 creature, let alone anything else Josh has. Josh reaching for the 2 mana to snap off this, you know, Brian actually knowing he's dead, just trying to, you know, give away less information. Josh actually giving him more information by playing that counterspell, I think.
But Josh Snyder takes game 1 and is only 1 game away from being a Star City Open champion.
Yeah, that might have been one of the quickest games we've had on camera. You know, less than 4 minutes for game 1.
4-minute savaging.
Yeah, and Josh's deck really firing on all cylinders, while BBD's didn't. And a few counterspells later, Mystic Snake really taking it home there.
Yeah.
4-4 Mystic Snake, not so bad.
And you know, unless we miss something covered in the quarterfinals, I think I'm willing to say that Josh Snyder has the best deck in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, of all the decks we've seen so far, his seems like the most smooth. The 4 Guildgates definitely giving a significant advantage over the other players who I never saw them have more than 1 or 2.
Right.
And it looks like, though, we do have one more trivia question, if I'm not mistaken.
We do, and this is the big one. This is for the full year.
Yeah, the full
year
of
of trivia.
Do it.
And
okay,
what you have to do, and you can't forget this, if you tweet at SCG Live, that's great. Tweet at me, that's great. Tweet at Todd, that's great. But you know what you really need? Wow, I can't point.
SCG Premium.
SCG Premium, that's the one you actually need. If you don't include that, it won't be counted.
Yep, so at SCG Premium, or hashtag SCG Premium, just tweet the answer to the question. The question is, what artist illustrated the playmat that's being given away to all Grand Prix competitors in Miami?
Right.
And a hint, she also works for StarCityGames.com.
Yeah. And we've been mentioning her over the weekend. She, you know what, and if you're still stumped, she did the sleeves.
Yeah, she did.
Star City Games
Yeah, the creature collection by blank.
Yep.
Yep, that's...
syllable, if that helps.
Yeah, so she did all the flying penguins with the jetpacks. She did the squirrels. She did the zombies. Are those the only 3 out so far? There was a vampire one too. Sweet vampires. She draws cute little fuzzy animals all over the place, as well as big scary monsters.
Todd, what happened to no hints?
I already gave a hint. I said she, you know, she's whatever. So if you know the answer to the question or want to take a guess, just tweet that at with the hashtag of SCG Premium, and you'll be entered into the drawing.
And whoever said Mirko Vosk, you're a little late. Mirko Vosk did not do the playmat.
To be fair, that was 20 minutes ago.
It's someone
10
else.
minutes ago. So.
Fair enough.
Oh no, that was 35 seconds ago. I guess he a little late. Maybe he was watching a replay or something.
It's all right, Ambrose. No big deal. So Josh Snyder will be on the draw for Game 3. BBD on the play.
So, you know, I really want BBD to win, but I'm ready for this day to be done. It has been a long day of awesome magic. We've been here since 8 a.m. I am
officially crashing.
Yeah. We could say that. My Red Bulls ran out about 12 hours ago.
Judge, gonna need a few more Red Bulls.
Yeah, at this point, that would be pretty bad though. I want to go to sleep a little later, so.
And there you can see Josh Snyder's pal in the background cheering him on. They all came from
BBD
an army
has
base.
No friends. Yeah, tell us a little bit about Josh Snyder, because you actually talked to him a little earlier, right?
I did. You know, I was really impressed with how he held himself, and you know, no surprise that he was in the army. That's, you know, if it's good for one thing, it's
discipline.
It's certainly that. Yeah, discipline, posture. He was a very calm, collected guy. It seemed like he was pretty excited to top 8 though, a newcomer to Magic. and they got time off to come out here and play some games. So
That's awesome.
pretty cool.
Is there a base near here near Charlotte?
I'm not sure. I didn't ask him, but I have to think they couldn't have come too far.
I don't want to sound obligatory, but no, I really do appreciate, those guys, doing that hard work for us, protecting, countless citizens here and citizens of other countries overseas, and, just being great individuals and great role models for everyone,
Yeah, thanks for your service, Josh, and everyone who came today. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Looks like he is taking a mulligan, though. Unfortunately, for a stand-up guy, sometimes you do have to mulligan.
Once in a while, you have to mulligan less than everybody else, but...
Yeah. And with perfect mana, that's that discipline showing through, right?
Right. When you pick the Simic Guildgate over maybe a better on-color card, that's that discipline showing through.
Right. So, I actually talked to Josh Snyder outside before the top 8 started. We were just having a chat. He asked me about his match and stuff. I told him we were going up the escalator to grab a bite to eat, and he's like, I haven't really drafted this format very much, and I'm like, well, you should probably value Guildgates pretty highly in the first pack, and it looks like he took my advice to heart, because he drafted 3 semi-Guildgates out of the first pack.
Yeah.
The Selesny Guildgate, I think, came from the Return to Ravnica, so looks like Brian's on the play here. No 2-drop Tide Drinker, maybe a Cluestone or a 5-drop or 2.
Yep, but no 2-drop from Josh Snyder either, and actually, looking at his deck, he doesn't have many of them. His game starts on turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
So Windrake from BBD, that's the first play of the game, and wow, Josh Snyder kept a Verdant Haven heavy hand, nothing on 3.
Yeah, and that's it's really going to punish him here if Brian has a good follow-up. But as long as Josh draws a lane within the next turn or two, those Verdant Haven's going to take away a little bit of that pain from the Windrake and give him a chance to come back, but it looks like he bricked again on land.
Wow, so the first 2 games of the finals here being all but decided by these missed land drops. Both players struggling.
Even though they both mulligan into a missed land drop too, which is important to know.
Right.
They both probably mulligan weak hands and then ended up with a weak 6 card in too. That's just a little unfortunate. Something that tends to happen in limited a little more often in constructed, since you don't have that. I want to say freedom to build the kind of deck that you always want to build. Whereas in limited, you kind of just have to take what's given to you. Looks like Josh missed on lands again, so it looks like Brian's probably going to take this game pretty quickly, and we're going to have probably the fastest 2 games I've seen in a long time, especially for
all weekend,
limited.
Certainly.
Yeah, definitely for the weekend. And the game's not over, though. I mean, Josh could draw, if BBD doesn't have a follow-up after that, Josh could play a Verdant Haven, gain that 2 life back, and then start playing some blockers, or even like a way to actually kill one of his opponent's creatures, or just, make it a little worse for him.
Right. Justin Cole tweets in that the man standing behind Josh, that's his brother Asa, and he's cheering him on.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, thanks to both of you guys, and we really appreciate you all coming out here to StarCityGames.com Standard Open, and as well as Sealed Deck Open in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's awesome to see people who don't get to play a lot come out to these events, and they get to play on camera. They get to show off their skills a little bit. Maybe they're a little less well known, but they still have their talents, and they still like to play Magic. And the game's all about having fun. It's all about coming out with your friends, having a good time, and sometimes you walk away with a lot of money.
Exactly. If the best player won every game, this would be a real boring card game.
Yeah, I agree. If there's a reason why chess is not a widely followed sport. It's a great game for strong minds, but there's never a random factor, so that the random Joe can never win. And that that's one of the bigger draws of poker, is that there is a lot of randomness involved. So it is appealing to someone who might not necessarily have 30 hours a week to devote to a certain hobby.
Right. Exactly. And Magic really bridges the gap between them. It's one of the best games I've ever played, if not the best. And it's no coincidence it's been around 20 years.
Yeah. So Josh Snyder doesn't really draw much to come back from that situation, which we expected. And we have 2 games finished in about 11 minutes. They've been shuffling for just about as long as they've been playing, if not longer.
So yeah, two really fast games. I would love to see some real Magic get played here in the finals. Prime Speakers of Ghana, that's the one that I'm pulling for.
Yeah, well, if you don't draw 6 lanes, you're not going to cast Prime Speakers of Ghana. Unless, of course, you draw a Verdant Haven instead of a 6 lane.
Sure. Mystic Genesis, Prime Speakers of Ghana. For Josh Snyder, he really has a powerful blue-green deck. If he can get rolling, if he can get his Verdant Havens and lands online, I don't see BBD being able to compete in terms of power level.
Right. It does look like Josh Snyder also has access to a Celestian Charm, which is important against some of Brian's later threats. It gets rid of the Diluvian Primordial as well as the um, Speria. He has an Arrest too to deal with it. So a couple cards that really make Brian's later spells not so good.
Yeah, I think Josh's deck matches up very well. The Extort from BBD is great against certain types of decks, but a deck like Josh's, which is just meant to go big and go bigger than any opponent can hope to do, it's one life is not much.
I am very much looking forward to a Horncollar's Chant from Josh Snyder being a Diluvian Primordial by Brian Braun-Duin. So that would be fun to watch.
Rhinos on rhinos on rhinos.
Yeah, unfortunately, Josh doesn't have a whole lot of spells for Diluvian Primordial to hit. He does have that Celestian Charm. He has, the Horncollar's Chant, but the rest really is just counter spells. The rest of his cards are usually creatures or mana fixers or something like that. But Josh's deck does look like it matches up very well against BBDs on most fronts, so long as they both draw lands. I think that Josh is favored.
Yeah, for sure. And it's pretty interesting. Josh Snyder has a Sundering Growth available to him in the sideboard. That could be a blowout on a not a keystone, a clue rune, of course.
Yeah, of course, a clue rune. Why not?
To copy an XX maybe.
Yeah. Dude, you're just as bad with the clue stones as I am with the Mirsko Bosco Bingo Bosco.
3 mana artifacts, they're all the same. They're mana rocks.
Yeah. So I'll call them talismans or something. I don't know. Alright, so an early Centaur Herald from Josh, threatening to make a 3/3, and he does have a few populate spells in his deck, so that could pose a problem for Brian, since he doesn't really have a whole lot of ways to deal with it. He does have a Far and Away, which can bounce the token, but it looks like Josh is content to just sit back, make a Centaur, and then start getting in the beats for 3. BBD accelerating as per usual with the Clue Stone. Hopefully going to start casting some 5-drops. Looks like he has a Mind Rod on the very far left. That could pose a problem for Josh. Later on, should he start to play out the rest of his hand, maybe take away some of his options to stabilize against BBD's later game.
Right, so the Centaur at the end of the turn, and if he has something like a Sundering Growth here, that would be a huge blowout for Josh Snyder. And 3 mana, see what he has, Drakewing Crassus. So 2 3-power creatures for Josh Snyder. BBD has nothing, so he has to add something to the board here. He's going to fall way behind.
Just a quick shout out to Matt Ianazuli. You have to have the hashtag SCG Premium. I think, I don't know if you have been doing that, but maybe that's the reason why you haven't been able to get your question answered on the air.
Yep, just make sure you include that hashtag SCG Premium if you are answering the trivia question.
Right, not to do random pokes at people on the internet, but that's just, when people have a question, I like to answer them. I don't like them being left in the dark. We'd have a Drakewing Crassus being suited up with a Civic Saber from Josh Snyder, dealing 5 damage. That's a pretty solid clock from Josh here to go along with that Centaur, which it basically is keeping BBD from attacking with his Nav Squad Commando, holding it back on defense.
Right, so Brian has to find an answer to this 5/1 flyer because it is just taking chunks out of his life total. He's already down to 12.
Yep, and he does have the potential here to cast a 6-drop while Josh is tapped out, should he have one to cast as well as the land. It looks like he just has a Mind Rot and maybe a small follow-up creature. But this would have been the turn really to play around Spell Rupture, to play around Mystic Genesis. Unfortunately, Brian didn't really have anything to capitalize on him tapping out other than maybe taking away a few of his resources. But
he is behind in the tempo game right now, and Mind Rot is only going to set him further behind, paying 3 mana at sorcery speed to not advance his board. It's pretty tough.
Yeah, but for BBD though, it's not that bad because he is taking away 2 spells from Josh, and they're likely going to be bigger spells since Josh did get stuck on 4 lands without a way to cast his bigger stuff. That Winddrake able to trade off with that Drakewing Crassus, though it is going to do a couple points of trample damage.
Yep, and land off the top for Josh Snyder, so he was a little stuck on 4, but now he has 5 available. We'll see what he can do with it.
This includes the ability to cast Mystic Genesis should he have it on Brian's next big play. He can do all sorts of stuff. I think he's willing here to trade, deal 3 damage, and then follow it up with... Ooh. And that's the Scion of Vitu-Ghazi. We're going to get that one up on the screen for you. A new rare from Dragon's Maze. When it comes into play, as long as you played it from your hand, you get to populate as well as create a 1/1 flying bird token. So
Right, so he's populating on the Centaur and creating a
correct.
1/1 bird.
He tried to sneak in a Bard Narsen token, and the judge wouldn't let him. Got to put a Centaur into play. But we got a bird, we got 2 Centaurs, and a 4/4. Now it's important to note that you're not able to use things like unbarrel rates with Sign of Vitukazi and still get the trigger. He also has a clause in there to prevent from going infinite with something like Cackling Counterpart, or anything like that that would make a token copy of himself, like Kiki Jiki, Meter
Right.
Breaker, something like that.
There are already plenty of copies with Kiki Jiki.
Right,
we don't
right.
need any more.
But Sign of Vitukazi doing a great impression of Cloud Goat Ranger. He's got a solid body. He comes in with at least 2 1/1 flyers. Sometimes comes in with a Centaur, sometimes comes in with a Rhino, or even, a 2/2 Vigilant Soldier off of a Celestia Charm. So that card, not only is it going to be good and limited, but I think it's going to be a huge player in Block Constructed for the upcoming Pro Tour next week. I think it's also going to be very good in Standard once, the next block comes in, because we're going to lose a lot of the, cards we have access to now, such as Thragtusk, things like that. And having, a value creature at 5 is going to be awesome. And when Restoration Angel goes away, there's going to be no real want to, do any shenanigans with the Sign of Vitukazi. And we're just going to want to cast it, and it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's such a great value creature. Unfortunately, it doesn't have flying like the Cloud Goat Ranger. But that
So,
said,
I think Josh has a little sniff here of a Skyline Pressure about to come down for BBD. And he's very concerned here with suiting up the bird token with a Civic Saber. And then attacking into it. So what he's going to do before combat, he's going to make a 3/3 Centaur. He's going to gain a bunch of life, and then probably suit up Civic Saber to the Sign of Vitukazi, so he can attack through the Nav Squad Commando.
right, so another Centaur. And Josh Snyder really just building his board up. This is a scary board. It got scary fast.
Yeah. So he decides to attack with everybody here, willing to trade, a Centaur token for some damage. However, if Brian does have the Skyline Predator, which I think he does, he's going to be able to put Josh in a bad spot. Even though Josh is at 30 life, he's going to start to take over the board here, since he's going to be able to eat 2 creatures for free. It's likely he's going to plan on eating 2 Centaurs, since that's a little better than eating a bird token, I believe. Yeah, and so he's just going to take 6 damage, down to 6. He's going to leave Josh with a 4/4, a 3/3, and a bird token with a saber on it. Not too shabby, but Josh doesn't have any cards in hand.
Right, Josh all out. He does have 6 mana though, so anything he draws he'll be able to play. I don't think, except maybe Horncaller's Chant. BBD though still with a couple spells in hand, and the key rune, and the Clue Stone.
So he's going to play this Zarishi Tiger as well as a Tide Drinker and be able to extort. This is going to put him at a safe 7 life with a lot of defense. The Tide Drinker going to turn any spell he plays into a mini drain. Keep him in this game. Make sure he doesn't die to a top deck. Prime Speaker Zagana or something like that would be pretty insane. He has a couple draws here that would help break the game wide open. Mystic Genesis would be sweet, keeping Brian off of his next big spell and generating a large creature in the process. But yeah, he doesn't really have a great attack here. I wouldn't be surprised if he moved the Civic Saber over to the Sign of Vitukazi and was able to attack with it, but he doesn't want to trade it because he has 3 Deputy of Acquittals in his deck.
Right.
So he can Deputy of Acquittals, bounce the Sign of Vitukazi, and then replay it, still casting it from his hand and still getting the triggered ability for making a guy and populate.
Yep, so Josh Snyder finds the right play. He says go, and he's going to let BBD do his thing.
Do you
Land for BBD.
So that's a little unfortunate for Brian. He's flooding out a little bit here, but he's not dead. He has his Rishi Tiger to gain some life. He's got a little bit of padding, but Josh is going to win the long game. He's got a lot of draws that can really punish Brian for not doing anything. In fact, he's got a lot of draws that punish Brian for doing things. So
Josh Snyder's deck is just really powerful, especially with that Scion in play.
Yeah.
It opens up so many different avenues of attack for Josh Snyder.
Yeah, so he does draw his 7th land here, which, if he has the Deputy of Acquittals, he definitely would have main phased it there, I think, to just go ahead and play that, bounce a Scion, and then replay it and make another Centaur and another bird token.
Right, so right now this game is at parity, except BBD is gaining 2 life every turn. It's Rishi Tiger doing its best Honden impression here.
Honden of Cleansing Fire?
That's the one.
Alright, well, 2 life a turn, not too shabby. The 2 mana at this point is mostly irrelevant since BB has access to approximately a billion lands. You know, his Skyline Predator really holding off most of the army from Josh. A double block really holding off the 4-4 from Josh as well as Josh's not really wanting to get rid of it because of this right here. And this is Deputy of Acquittals, which is going to bounce his 4-4 Sign of Vitu-Ghazi, recasting it and generating an extra 4 power than what he had before, not counting the Deputy of Acquittals. So
wow, Josh Snyder going with the bird token.
Okay, well maybe he's just no. I think he just said make a bird, populate that.
Fair
So puts in a centaur, puts in a bird. Only one of those is suited up with a Civic Saber. They can't share it. They're cute, but they don't get special treatment.
They're trying to hold it between one claw each.
Yeah.
Struggling with
it. Probably takes. It probably does take 2 penguins to really hold the one sword, though, right?
I want to see a penguin hold the sword. Period.
Well, it's doing it right now. You're seeing history in action.
Maybe first. So Josh Snyder going to overwhelm BBD pretty quickly unless BBD has some spells.
Yeah, it looks like he drew another Tithe Drinker, or maybe that's not. Oh no, so it's just a Azorius Arrestor. Gonna keep the 4 from attacking. Not incredibly relevant, but the 1 point of life swing from the Arrestor triggering the Extort might be relevant in a few turns if Josh ever gets an opportunity to attack. So this game looking like it's going to come down to a grind fest. Josh, I think, is definitely favored in a grind fest type situation. BBD really needs to peel in Asperia, and he really needs Josh not to draw anything but lands for a few turns, honestly.
Right. Josh does still have a lot of lands left in his deck. He discarded a pair of spells to the Mind Rot, and he only has 7 lands, so still 10 left in the deck. But we'll see what he draws.
Jesse, do you mind giving us a zoom in on the graveyard for Josh? I kind of want to see what that gold card is underneath the Centaur Herald. The blue card, of course, is the Maze Gilder, I believe. And that's another Deputy of Acquittals in the graveyard. So he does have access to just 1 more Deputy of Acquittals in his deck. So that is important to go along with that Scion of Vitu-Ghazi.
Right. And I don't think these players were able to see each other's deck list. So right now, the Prime Speaker Zagana is still unknown from BBD. Same with the 3rd Deputy.
It would be quite hilarious if, with all the cards in his deck, Josh somehow couldn't win the game, and the drawing of 4 to 5 extra cards from it ended up decking him.
Wow.
Or if it's the last bottom 5 cards of his deck, it's just basically a deck card.
Yeah.
Where normally it would be insane. So a Syndic of Tithes from Brian, looking really to turn the tithe, if you will.
Yeah, the tides are turning. BBD's fast approaching 20. Josh Snyder dipping below 30.
Yeah, still at 27. Still a very high life total. I think that we're really at a point here where BBD is starting to stabilize, but Josh can very easily break the game open with a variety of effects, a variety of spells. If he just has a Mystic Genesis, he's able to counter one of BBD's bigger threats like Asperia, like Delevum Primordial, and just punish Brian for having such expensive cards in his deck. It looks like Josh, though, is just sort of content moving his Saber around, maybe just positioning himself a little better against an attack from Brian, or potentially, an attack next turn where he may end up needing most of his mana. If he draws Prime Speaker Zagana, he doesn't want to miss a land drop because he wants to be able to cast all those cards he draws. So, he keeps playing his lands that he draws, which, some people will hold them. Josh, being on the up and up, is deciding to, play them all out.
And what is that? Is that the Species Gorger?
I believe that is a Species Gorger. If we could get that up on the screen. Species Gorger, quite the interesting one.
There he is.
So we have a 5-mana 6/6. No big deal. Just able to bounce a creature every turn.
And any creature, maybe even that Scion.
Yeah, maybe actually. I don't know if that's the target he wants to bounce. It could be anything.
Yeah, like bird token is reasonable. But I think he'll go with the Scion.
Yeah, I think he's gonna start bouncing Scion every turn. That sounds quite good.
Yeah, and now BBD, with the addition of that Species Gorger, he knows that he has to get aggressive. He's not going to be Josh Snyder in this long game.
Yeah, so this is Regi Tiger, along with a couple Exort triggers, really putting Brian at a high life total, but, if Josh gets to activate that Species Gorger multiple times with that Sign of Vitu-Ghazi, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Brian to contain that overwhelming force. He does have a 2/3, a 3/5, as well as a ton of other smaller creatures in play, none of which really match up well against Centaur tokens, except for the 3/5. But here comes a Stealer, Seekers from Brian, gonna drain his opponent for 2, all the way down to 25.
Right.
And up to 21 with the ability to go up to, except that Species Gorger is a 7 power, so that Spell Rupture is going to counter it. So I don't know if that's the best use of a Spell Rupture there, since the Stealer Secret's not really all that great in this matchup, or in this very particular situation. Josh could have saved that for something more devastating, like an Asperia, like maybe a Diluvian Primordial, but we're just going to keep casting, and that's another good one to bounce. Josh's deck is insane.
It really is. He has so much synergy.
So he gets to put an Angel into play now.
Wow.
And then if he, doesn't bounce or if, he next turn he gets to populate the Angel token. So it's just, this is getting out of control, and I don't think Brian has a way out.
Oh, still above 20 life is Josh Snyder. BBD's deck is slow and grindy, and he can only win given a bunch of turns that I don't think he's going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to do 25 points of Extort damage before all those 4/4 Angels kill you. This is really bad for Brian. I don't think he's going to take it down, and I'm pretty confident we're going to have Josh Snyder be the Open Champion here this evening.
Yeah,
just another land from Brian, while Josh is making 12 power a turn. Like, this is bad news bears.
It is. This is crazy. BBD really flooding out here. 4, 8, 12 lands for BBD.
Yeah.
It's...
I mean, 9 from Josh, so I mean, it's not like BBD's drawn that much more, but Josh's deck has an incredible amount of synergy. A lot of his cards just make these big, powerful effects. Sign of Vitu-Ghazi in particular, but, Josh having the Species Gorger, having the 3 Deputy of Acquittals to go along with things like Herbert's Protector, and, the Centaur tokens like the Centaur Herald creates is just insane. So we're going to populate that Angel, make another bird token, and I just don't see a way out.
Yeah, Josh Snyder doesn't have enough room for all his tokens. This is how gross this is for BBD.
Right, and we've seen Brian draft. We know he doesn't have access to Cyclonic Rift. He doesn't have access to Supreme Verdict, Merciless Eviction. There are a lot of cards in the format, that are like big rares that could help him out. He just doesn't have any. His deck is mostly just a bunch of value creatures that gain some life, a couple of drain effects, and it looks like Brian's going to be...
out of luck here.
He's going to be the bridesmaid once again.
Yep.
The BBD's maid.
That was good.
The Brian's maid.
I'll allow that one. That one's good. That one's good. He does have an Asperia, the Supreme Judge. He has a Diluvian Primordial, so he has some power in the air, but these Angel tokens they're growing quick.
Yeah, I feel like 2 Angel tokens is better than Asperia. and they don't really match up well against a 6/4.
No, they don't.
Or so the 6/4 doesn't match up well against them, rather. So we're gonna keep populating those Angels, keep making bird tokens. Josh really giving BBD the bird.
And these Angels are going to add up pretty quick. Oh, wow, the bird's coming in too. Josh Snyder decides no more messing around.
Yeah. So BBD taking 8 down to 13. He's going to gain some life to 15 with the Tiger, but ultimately it's just a matter of time. He just doesn't have a way out, and he knows it.
Yep, up to 14 is BBD. I think the bird got in too, so he is just 1 or 2 attacks away here from death. He needs something really quick, maybe an Asperia, maybe a Diluvian, maybe some way to deal with that Species Gorger.
If he had maybe been a little more aggressive with his Skyline Predator earlier and been attacking into those bird tokens, Josh would have either run out of them maybe before the Species Gorger came into play. He could have gotten Josh down to a much lower life total. He could have potentially top decked Bluster Squall to tap all of Josh's creatures and deal lethal damage, but at this point he only has 2, 4, 6, 9, 10, 11, 13 damage in play. Maybe not enough even then with a few attacks from the Skyline Predator, but you never know. And at this point in the game, though, it's just far too gone. We got 3 Angels, fixing to be 4, multiple bird tokens, and just a Species Gorger eating Brian alive.
Yeah, it really is. He's just having his way with Brian's life total. Here
Not touching that one.
Another Scion, a bird, and an Angel.
It's not another Scion, it's that same Scion.
Same Scion.
Over and over
that
again.
troublesome Scion.
Yeah. So who would have known that the embodiment of a god would have been so powerful?
So, Skyline Predator blocks a 1/1. BBD's going to drop to 1. And then 3 from the
Yeah.
Tiger.
Yep, he's going to take 13 down to 1. Just counting the damage here. We may have life totals incorrect, but I think it's just 13.
Yep.
So Brian going to go up to 3. Still not a good answer to what's going on. You know, if I were Josh here, just if I didn't know the deck list, I would actually be a little afraid of a Merciless Eviction or Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have cast that last Scion. You know, you want to hold on to some of your better spells, you know, to make sure you don't lose to those sweeper effects. And he's got plenty of lethal power. You know, the only card that really can get Brian out of this is some big effect like a Cyclonic Rift.
Wow. Josh Snyder, your Star City
That
Open
is
sealed
match.
champion.
So
Congratulations.
still had this Mystic Genesis.
Oh, wow.
So,
And the
no big deal.
Genesis.
Yeah, so even if he had drawn something, the Mystic Genesis, obviously